Marcus Chun had always been good with broken things. In his small repair shop tucked between a laundromat and a convenience store on Maple Street, he spent his days breathing life back into damaged electronics. Phones with cracked screens, laptops that refused to start, gaming consoles that had given up hope. They all found their way to his cluttered workbench. The morning everything changed started like any other. Marcus arrived at his shop at 7:30, unlocking the glass door that bore the simple sign, Chen's Electronics Repair. We fix what others give up on. The autumn air carried the scent of fallen leaves and the distant aroma of coffee from the diner 3 blocks down. He flipped the lights and surveyed his domain. Circuit boards covered every available surface, tools hung in precise rows on pegboards, and towers of old computer cases created small mountains throughout the cramped space. This organized chaos was his sanctuary, a place where logic ruled, and every problem had a solution waiting to be discovered. The bell above his door chimed at exactly 9:15. Marcus looked up from stubborn tablet repair to see a young girl standing in his doorway. She appeared to be about 8 years old, with the kind of pale complexion that suggested she spent little time outdoors. Her dark hair hung straight to her shoulders, and she wore clothes that seemed expensive but oddly cut, a silver jacket that shimmered with an unusual metallic sheen, and dark pants made from fabric he didn't recognize. What caught his attention most, however, was what she carried in her small arms. An android head, roughly the size of a basketball, with intricate silver plating and dark sensor arrays where eyes should be. The craftsmanship was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. The metal work showed precision beyond current manufacturing capabilities, with seamless joints and materials that seemed to shift color slightly in the light. "Excuse me," the girl said, her voice carrying a slight accent Marcus couldn't place. "My friend is broken. Can you help?" Marcus set down his tools and walked around the counter. The girl couldn't be more than 4 feet tall, and she struggled slightly under the weight of the android head. Up close, he could see tear tracks on her cheeks, though she was trying hard to appear brave. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Marcus asked gently, crouching to her eye level. "Zara," she replied, "and this is Companion. He stopped working yesterday, and I don't know how to fix him." Marcus examined the android head more closely. The technology was extraordinary. Where he expected to find standard circuits and processors, he saw components that defied explanation. Crystalline structures that pulsed with faint inner light, metal alloys that seemed to repair minor scratches as he watched, and connection ports unlike any standard he knew. "Where did you get this?" Marcus asked, keeping his voice casual despite his amazement. Zara's expression grew guarded. "He was a gift. From my family. Can you make him work again?" Marcus lifted the android head, surprised by its weight. It felt substantial, but not heavy, as if it were made from materials that shouldn't exist. The surface was warm to the touch, suggesting some kind of internal power source was still active. "I can try," Marcus said, "but I've never worked on anything quite like this before. Where are your parents? Shouldn't they be here with you?" A shadow crossed Zara's face. "Mother is away. On business. Very far away. And I'm staying with." She paused, searching for words. "With friend of the family. But they don't understand Companion like I do." Marcus nodded, recognizing the loneliness in her voice. He'd been that kind of child once, the one adults didn't quite know what to do with, the one who found comfort in mechanical things because they were predictable and safe. "All right, Zara, let me take a look. But I need you to tell me everything you can about how Companion works. Even the smallest detail might help." Zara's face lit up for the first time since entering the shop. "Really? You'll try to fix him?" "I'll do my best. That's what I do here. Fix things that seem impossible to fix." Marcus carried the android head to his main workbench, clearing space among the other projects. Zara followed closely, watching his every movement with intense focus. He positioned his strongest work light over the head and began his examination. The construction was remarkable. Instead of screws or bolts, the components seemed held together by some form of magnetic bonding that he could manipulate with the right tools. As he carefully began to separate the outer casing, Zara provided a running commentary. Companion can speak 47 languages, she said proudly. And he knows stories from from many places. He helps me with my studies and plays games with me when I'm lonely. Marcus found what appeared to be the main processing unit, a crystalline matrix that defied every principle of computer engineering he knew. What kind of studies? He asked absently, more focused on understanding the alien technology before him. Mathematics, mostly. Quantum mechanics. Stella navigazione. The usual things. Zara spoke as if these were normal subjects for a child her age. Marcus paused in his work. Stella navigazione? That's pretty advanced stuff for someone your age. Zara blushed. I'm advanced for my age. Mother says I have an exceptional mind. As Marcus delved deeper into the android systems, he discovered networks of what looked like fiber optic cables, but they carried not light, but some form of energy that made his instruments behave strangely. His multimeter gave readings that made no sense, and his oscilloscope displayed waveforms he'd never seen before. Zara, what exactly powers Companion? I don't see any battery compartments or power supplies I recognize. The girl fidgeted with her strange jacket. He's powered by ambient energy collection. He can draw power from many sources: heat, light, electromagnetic fields. Mother's people are very good at efficient energy systems. Your mother's people? Another pause. She works for a technology company. Very advanced. They don't share their innovations with the general market yet. Marcus accepted this explanation, though something about it felt incomplete. He continued his investigation, mapping out the android's neural pathways and trying to understand the logic behind its construction. Hours passed without either of them noticing. The problem, when he finally found it, was both simple and complex. A cascade failure in the neural matrix had corrupted the android's core personality files. It was like a computer crash, but infinitely more sophisticated. The android wasn't broken. It had suffered what could only be described as a form of amnesia. I think I know what's wrong, Marcus said finally. But fixing it is going to require some creative thinking. Zara leaned forward eagerly. What kind of creative thinking? Well, Companion's memory systems are intact, but they're not connecting properly to his personality matrix. It's like his brain is working, but his sense of self is disconnected. I need to essentially reboot his consciousness and rebuild the pathways between different parts of his mind. Can you do that? Marcus looked at the array of alien technology spread across his workbench. By any reasonable standard, he was completely out of his depth. But he'd built his reputation on solving impossible problems, and something about this challenge excited him. I can try, but I'll need to jury-rig some connections using parts one have here. It won't be pretty, and there's no guarantee it'll work. Please try, Zara said. Companion is my best friend, maybe my only real friend. The sadness in her voice decided it for Marcus. He spent the next several hours creating hybrid connections between the alien neural networks and Earth standard electronics. He used modified USB adapters, fiber optic cables from old networking equipment, and even salvaged components from gaming consoles to bridge the gap between technologies that were probably centuries apart. Zara proved to be an exceptional assistant. She seemed to understand the android's systems intuitively, guiding Marcus toward solutions he might never have found on his own. Her knowledge of advanced physics and engineering was remarkable for someone her age, and she spoke about complex concepts with casual familiarity. As the afternoon wore on, Marcus began to notice other unusual things about his young customer. She never seemed to get hungry or thirsty, despite having been in his shop for hours. Her clothes, while clearly expensive, had no visible brand labels or care instructions. Most strangely, she sometimes answered questions before he finished asking them, as if she could anticipate his thoughts. But the biggest mystery was her connection to the android. When Marcus finally activated his jury-rig repair system and sent the first diagnostic signals through Companion's neural matrix, Zara gasped and pressed her hand to her chest as if she'd felt something. Did that hurt? Marcus asked, concerned. No, Zara replied quickly. I could feel him stirring, like he was waking up from a long sleep. Marcus continued his work, slowly rebuilding the pathways between the android's memory centers and personality core. It was delicate work, requiring patience and intuition more than technical skill. Each connection had to be perfect, or the entire system could cascade into failure again. As the sun began to set outside his shop windows, Marcus made the final connection. The android head suddenly hummed to life, its sensor arrays flickering with soft blue light. The metal plating seemed to warm, and Marcus could hear quiet processing sound from within the crystalline matrix. "Companion," Zara whispered, her voice full of hope. The android's optical sensors focused, sweeping across the room before settling on Zara's face. When it spoke, its voice was melodious and warm, with subtle harmonics that suggested vocal synthesis far beyond current human technology. "Young Mistress," the android said, "I am confused. Where are we? And who is this person who has aided in my restoration?" Zara's face lit up with pure joy. She reached out and gently touched the android's metal cheek. "We're on Earth, companion. And this is Marcus. He fixed you when no one else could." The android's sensors turned toward Marcus, studying him with unsettling intensity. "Marcus Chun, according to my environmental scans, a repair technician of considerable skill, working with primitive but ingenious methods. I am in your debt, sir." Marcus felt a chill at the android's casual reference to scanning him. "Just doing my job," he said. "Though I have to say, I've never worked on anything quite like you before." "I imagine not," Companion replied. "My construction incorporates technologies that are not yet common in this region of space." "This region of space?" Marcus repeated. Zara shot the android a sharp look. "Companion means this part of the country. His language protocols sometimes translate oddly." The android seemed to consider this for a moment before nodding. "Indeed, cultural and linguistic adaptation remains an ongoing process." Marcus wasn't entirely convinced by this explanation, but he was too fascinated by the android's construction to press the issue. "How do you feel? Any problems with mobility, memory, sensory input?" Companion's optical array cycled through several different wavelengths of light. "All systems appear to be functioning within normal parameters, though I noticed some unusual hybrid connections that were not part of my original design." "Those are my additions," Marcus said proudly. "I had to bridge some gaps between the neural networks and the components I had available. It's not elegant, but it should hold." "On the contrary," Companion replied, "the integration shows remarkable innovation. You have successfully interfaced technologies that are centuries apart in development. Such adaptability suggests exceptional problem-solving capabilities." Zara smiled at Marcus. "I told you he was smart, Companion. Marcus can fix anything." "So it would appear," the android agreed. "Young Mistress, perhaps it would be appropriate to compensate Mr. Chun for his services." Zara reached in her jacket and produced a small crystalline device that pulsed with inner light. "Would this be sufficient payment?" Marcus stared at the object, which seemed to contain more technology than his entire shop. "I can't accept that. It looks valuable, and I don't even know what it is." "It's a universal power cell," Zara explained casually. "It can power any electronic device for a very long time. Consider it a token of our appreciation." Marcus hesitated. The device was clearly worth far more than his usual repair fees, but something told him that refusing it might offend his unusual customers. "Are you sure? I mean, my normal rate for this kind of work would be maybe $200. Zara and Companion exchanged what could only be described as amused looks. "Mr. Chun," the android said, "what you accomplished today is worth considerably more than your local currency could express. Please accept the gift in the spirit it is offered." Marcus carefully took the power cell, which was warm and seemed to vibrate slightly in his palm. "Thank you, both of you. This has been, it's been the most interesting repair job of my career." "It is we who should thank you," Companion said. "You have not only restored my functionality, but demonstrated that the people of Earth possess ingenuity and compassion that transcend technological limitations. Zara carefully lifted Companion's head, no longer struggling with its weight now that the android could adjust his internal mass distribution. "We should go. The family friends will be wondering where I am. Will I see you again?" Marcus asked, surprised by how much he hoped the answer was yes. Zara smiled. "Maybe. If Companion ever needs maintenance, we know where to find the best repair technician in the sector." In the city, Companion corrected smoothly. They left as quietly as they had arrived, Zara carrying her restored android companion with obvious joy. Marcus watched through his window as they walked down Maple Street, noting that they seemed to move with unusual grace, as if gravity affected them differently. He looked down at the crystalline power cell, still warm in his hand. When he connected it to his diagnostic equipment out of curiosity, the readings were extraordinary. The device seemed to contain enough energy to power his entire shop for months, maybe years. That night, Marcus lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every detail of the day's events. The technology he'd worked with was impossible by every standard he knew, yet he'd held it in his hands and made it work. The little girl spoke like a graduate student in physics, and her android companion had capabilities that wouldn't be available for decades, if ever. Most puzzling of all was the sense that he'd stumbled into something much larger than a simple repair job. The way Zara had spoken about her mother's people, the android's references to regions of space, the casual mention of technologies that seemed beyond current human understanding, it all pointed to possibilities that Marcus was afraid to fully consider. But as sleep finally came, one thought dominated his mind. Whatever the truth about his mysterious customers, he'd helped a lonely child repair her broken friend. In the end, that was what mattered most. The rest, he decided, would reveal itself in time. The power cell sat on his nightstand, pulsing gently in the darkness like a technological heartbeat, proof that some impossibilities were just waiting for the right person to believe in them. 3 weeks after Zara's first visit, Marcus Chun had almost convinced himself that the entire experience had been some elaborate dream. The crystalline power cell sat in his workshop safe, still pulsing with mysterious energy, but he'd begun to wonder if stress and too many late nights had somehow created the whole impossible scenario in his imagination. Then, the men in dark suits arrived. Marcus was working on a laptop repair when he noticed them through his shop window. 3 individuals in identical black suits, standing perfectly still across the street, watching his building with the kind of intense focus that made his skin crawl. They'd been there for 20 minutes without moving, speaking, or showing any normal human behavior. When his shop bell chimed, Marcus looked up expecting to see customers. Instead, the 3 men filed in with military precision, their movements synchronized in a way that seemed rehearsed. The first man, tall and pale with steel-gray hair, stepped forward while the other 2 flanked him. "Mr. Chun," the man said, his voice carrying no warmth whatsoever. "We represent a government task force investigating unusual technological activities in this area. We'd like to ask you some questions." Marcus felt his mouth go dry. "What kind of unusual activities?" "The kind involving advanced electronics that don't appear in any known databases," the second man replied. He was shorter, but built like a professional athlete, with eyes that seemed to catalog every detail of the shop. "Specifically, we're interested in any recent repair jobs involving non-standard technology." The third man, who hadn't spoken yet, was already moving around the shop, examining Marcus's tools and work surfaces with obvious expertise. He picked up a circuit board from a recent project and studied it as if it might contain state secrets. "I repair a lot of different electronics," Marcus said carefully. "Phones, computers, gaming systems. Nothing unusual about any of that." "Mr. Chun," the gray-haired man said, "we have reason to believe you recently came into contact with technology that represents a significant security concern. We're authorized to conduct a full search of these premises, but we prefer your cooperation." Marcus's mind raced. Whatever these men represented, they weren't here by coincidence. Someone or something had led them to his shop, and He had a sinking feeling it was connected to Zara and Companion. "Am I under arrest?" he asked. "Not at this time," the man replied. "But that could change depending on your level of cooperation." Before Marcus could respond, his shop bell chimed again. All four men turned toward the door, and Marcus felt his heart skip when he saw Zara walking in. She looked exactly as she had 3 weeks ago. The same unusual clothing, the same serious expression, the same sense that she was somehow older than her apparent 8 years. The men in suits immediately tensed, hands moving inside their jackets in a way that suggested concealed weapons. The gray-haired man stepped protectively in front of his companions. "Young lady," he said sharply, "this establishment is temporarily closed for official business. You need to leave immediately." Zara looked at the men with calm assessment, showing no fear despite their obvious hostility. "I need to speak with Marcus. It's important." "I said leave," the man repeated, his voice carrying clear menace. Zara sighed, a sound that seemed far too weary for someone her age. "Companion, I think we need to clarify the situation." Marcus hadn't noticed the android head she carried until she set it carefully on his counter. Companion's optical sensors activated immediately, scanning the 3 suited men with obvious distaste. "Federal agents," the android announced in his melodious voice, "armed and operating under protocols designed to contain what they classify as anomalous technology. They've been monitoring Mr. Chen's shop for 6 days." The gray-haired man drew his weapon, a sleek black pistol that looked far more advanced than standard police equipment. "Step away from the device." Now, Companion's optical array shifted to focus on the weapon. "Plasma discharge system, Mark 7. Impressive. Though I should mention that threatening young Mistress Zara constitutes a violation of several interstellar treaties that your government has tacitly agreed to honor." "Interstellar treaties?" the second man echoed, his own weapon now drawn. Zara walked calmly to Marcus's side. "These men represent a government department that monitors unusual activities. They've traced the energy signature from your repair work 3 weeks ago." Marcus felt the world tilt around him. "Energy signature? When you repaired Companion, you created hybrid connections between Earth technology and our systems. The integration produced a unique electromagnetic pattern that their sensors detected." "Your systems?" the gray-haired man demanded. "What exactly are you?" Zara looked at Marcus with something like apology in her eyes. "I suppose it's time for complete honesty. My name is Zara Velandra, Crown Princess of the Andromedan Coalition. Companion is a Class 7 artificial intelligence designed by the finest engineers in our empire. And you, Marcus Chun, had just become involved in something much larger than you could imagine." The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus stared at the young girl he'd helped, trying to process information that challenged everything he thought he knew about reality. The federal agents kept their weapons trained on Companion, while clearly struggling to understand the situation themselves. "That's impossible," the gray-haired man finally said. "You're a child. Earth has no contact with extraterrestrial civilizations." Companion's optical sensors dimmed slightly, which Marcus had learned indicated the android equivalent of amusement. "Agent Morrison, your security clearance is insufficient for full disclosure, but I can confirm that your planet has been in unofficial contact with 17 different civilizations for the past 63 years. The Andromedan Coalition alone maintains observation posts in 12 major Earth cities." Agent Morrison, apparently that was his name, kept his weapon steady despite the obvious shock on his face. "Prove it." Zara reached into her jacket and withdrew a device that looked like a cross between a smartphone and a crystal formation. She touched its surface, and the air above it shimmered, forming a 3-dimensional hologram of Earth as seen from space. But this wasn't the Earth from any textbook. Bright points of light marked locations around the globe, connected by streams of energy that pulsed like a vast circulatory system. Space around the planet showed structures that clearly weren't human-made, elegant stations, and ships that moved in complex patterns. "Your planet is under protection," Zara explained calmly. The Coalition has been gradually preparing your species for formal contact, but the process requires careful management. We don't want to cause the kind of cultural shock that has damaged other developing civilizations. Marcus found his voice. Why are you telling us this? 3 weeks ago, you pretended to be a normal kid with an unusual toy. Zara's expression grew sad. Because these agents forced the issue, they were going to arrest you, confiscate everything in your shop, and likely make you disappear into some classified facility. I couldn't let that happen to someone who helped me when I needed it most. Agent Morrison stepped forward, his weapon still raised. Princess or not, you're coming with us. Both of you. This android is evidence of a potential security breach. I'm afraid that won't be possible, Companion said pleasantly. Young Mistress Zara enjoys diplomatic immunity under Coalition law. Attempting to detain her would be considered an act of war. By who? Your Coalition doesn't officially exist. Agent Morrison, Zara said with the kind of authority that seemed to fill the small shop. Would you like to speak with my mother? Before he could answer, Zara touched her device again. The hologram shifted, showing what appeared to be the bridge of a starship. Seated in a command chair was a woman who looked like an older version of Zara, wearing robes that seemed to be cut from starlight itself. Admiral Valandra, Zara said formally. I require immediate diplomatic intervention. The woman in the hologram turned toward them, and Marcus felt a shock of recognition. The resemblance to Zara was unmistakable, but this was clearly someone accustomed to absolute authority. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of command over fleets and worlds. Daughter, what is your situation? Earth's containment protocols have been activated. Federal agents are attempting to detain Mr. Chun and confiscate Companion. I've been forced to reveal our nature to prevent interference with a Coalition asset. Admiral Valandra's expression hardened. Agent Morrison, I presume you can hear me? The federal agent's face had gone pale, but he nodded. Good. You will stand down immediately. My daughter is under diplomatic protection, as is Mr. Chun, who is now classified as a Coalition technical consultant. Any attempt to detain them will result in direct intervention by the Imperial fleet. We don't negotiate with terrorists, Morrison said, though his voice lacked conviction. Admiral Valandra smiled, an expression that somehow managed to be both beautiful and terrifying. Agent Morrison, I currently have 47 ships in orbit around your planet, invisible to your detection systems, but fully capable of defensive action. I am not a terrorist. I am the military commander responsible for this sector's security. Now holster your weapon and contact your superiors. They will confirm what I'm telling you. The three agents exchanged uncertain looks. The gray-haired man slowly lowered his pistol and activated a communication device on his belt. After several minutes of coded conversation, his expression grew increasingly troubled. Confirmed, he said finally. Stand down. Full retreat. Agent Morrison, Admiral Valandra continued. My daughter's safety is paramount. Mr. Chun has provided valuable assistance to Coalition interests. He is now under our protection, whether he wants it or not. Marcus felt overwhelmed by the rapid escalation of events. Wait, I didn't agree to anything. I just fixed an android for a kid. Zara looked at him with genuine regret. I know, Marcus, but when you repaired Companion using Earth technology, you created something new, a hybrid system that our engineers have been trying to develop for decades. You're not just a repair technician anymore. You're possibly the most valuable technical asset on your planet. That's crazy, Marcus protested. I jury-rigged some connections with parts from my junk drawer. Companion's optical sensors focused on him. Mr. Chun, your jury-rigged solutions solve problems that have challenged our finest minds. The hybrid neural pathways you created shouldn't be possible according to our understanding of technological integration. Yet they work flawlessly. Admiral Valandra leaned forward in her command chair. Mr. Chun, I'm prepared to offer you a choice. You can return to your normal life, and we'll ensure these agents never bother you again. Your memory of recent events will be adjusted for your own protection. Marcus felt a chill at the casual mention of memory adjustment. Or or you can accept a position as technical consultant to the coalition. You'd work with our finest engineers, have access to technologies beyond current human understanding, and help develop systems that could benefit both our civilizations. The shop fell silent, except for the humming of electronic devices. Marcus looked around at his small domain, the cluttered workbench, the towers of old computer cases, the simple sign on his door. It represented everything he'd built for himself, a predictable life where problems had solutions and fixing things brought satisfaction. But he also looked at Zara, this remarkable child who carried herself like royalty because she actually was royalty, at Companion, an artificial being whose consciousness he'd helped restore. At the holographic image of a starship bridge where humanity's future was being decided by beings, who saw Earth as just one small part of a vast galactic community. If I accept this consultant position, Marcus said slowly, what happens to my shop? My life here. Your shop remains operational, Admiral Valandra replied. In fact, it becomes a coalition facility, officially classified as a cultural exchange center. You'd split your time between Earth assignments and off-world projects. Agent Morrison stepped forward. And what about Earth security? We can't just ignore the existence of your coalition. Zara touched her device again, and the hologram shifted to show a conference room where humans and clearly non-human beings sat around a curved table. Agent Morrison, your government has been part of the Galactic Accords for over 60 years. Earth's leaders know about us. They just haven't told your people yet. Why the secrecy? Marcus asked. Admiral Valandra's expression grew gentle. Because your species is still developing. Full revelation of galactic civilization before you're ready could cause cultural collapse, religious upheaval, or political fragmentation that might take centuries to resolve. We've seen it happen before, Companion added. The goal is gradual integration. Individuals like yourself, who demonstrate exceptional adaptability and problem-solving skills, become bridges between civilizations. Eventually, your entire species will join the galactic community, but only when they're truly ready. Marcus realized that everyone was waiting for his decision. The federal agents stood ready to follow whatever orders came from their superiors. Admiral Valandra watched with the patience of someone accustomed to making decisions that affected millions of lives. Zara looked at him with hope and something that might have been friendship. If I say yes, he asked, do I get to keep working on impossible problems? Zara smiled for the first time since the agents had arrived. Marcus, in the coalition, impossible problems are just Tuesday morning. Marcus looked around his shop one more time, then at the crystalline power cell, still sitting in plain view on his workbench. The device that had proved impossible things were just waiting for the right person to believe in them. All right, he said. I'm in. Admiral Valandra nodded approvingly. Excellent. Agent Morrison, you and your team are dismissed. Official channels will provide you with updated protocols within 6 hours. The federal agents filed out as precisely as they had entered, though Marcus noticed they moved like people whose understanding of the world had just been fundamentally altered. When they were gone, Zara picked up Companion and looked at Marcus with obvious relief. Thank you for fixing Companion, for trusting me, for being brave enough to accept something bigger than yourself. So what happens now? Marcus asked. Now, Companion said, you learn about technologies that will make your head spin. You work on projects that could revolutionize both our civilizations. And, occasionally, you help a lonely princess maintain her only real friend. Zara blushed. Companion, that's not entirely accurate, isn't it, young mistress? Before Mr. Chun repaired me, who else on this planet understood your need for intellectual companionship and emotional support? Marcus watched the exchange between the young princess and her artificial companion, beginning to understand the deeper dynamics at play. Zara wasn't just royalty. She was a child far from home, surrounded by alien cultures and technologies, trying to maintain connections to something familiar and safe. Zara, he said gently, are you okay? I mean, really okay? This can't be easy for someone your age. The mask of royal authority slipped for a moment, revealing the scared, lonely child underneath. It's been difficult. Mother's duties keep her away for months at a time. I'm educated by the finest tutors in the empire, but I don't have friends my own age. Most adults treat me like a political figure rather than a person. Except when you're in my shop fixing androids with someone who doesn't know any better, Marcus realized. Exactly. For a few hours, I was just a kid with a broken toy, asking for help from someone who saw me as a person first. Marcus felt a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with advanced alien technology. Well, princess or not, you're welcome here anytime. And if Companion ever needs maintenance, you know where to find me. Admiral Velandra's image smiled from the holographic display. Mr. Chun, I believe this assignment will prove beneficial for everyone involved. Zara needs mentorship from someone outside the formal power structure, and you need challenges that match your exceptional abilities. When do I start? Marcus asked. You already have, Zara replied. Your first project is designing hybrid interface systems based on the work you did with Companion. Our engineers are fascinated by your approach to cross-species technological integration. Marcus looked around his shop, seeing it with new eyes. The cluttered workbenches, the towers of salvage components, the tools that had seemed so familiar just hours ago, all of it was about to become part of something unimaginably larger. But at the heart of it all was the same thing that had always driven him, the desire to fix what was broken, to solve problems that others considered impossible, and to help someone in need. As Admiral Valandra's transmission ended and the hologram faded, Marcus turned to his new friends and colleagues. So, what's the first impossible problem we're going to solve? Zara grinned, looking like the brilliant, mischievous child she truly was. How would you like to help design the next generation of faster-than-light communication systems? Marcus Chun, small-town electronics repair technician turned galactic technical consultant, picked up his tools and smiled back. Let's get to work. 6 months after becoming a coalition technical consultant, Marcus Chun thought he'd experienced every possible surprise the universe could offer. He'd worked on hyperspace communication arrays, helped design atmospheric processors for terraforming projects, and even assisted with the maintenance of ships that could cross galaxies in the time it took him to brew coffee. But nothing had prepared him for the morning when the Empress of the Andromedan Coalition arrived unannounced at his shop on Maple Street. Marcus was deep in concentration, working on a particularly challenging fusion reactor diagnostic system, when every piece of electronic equipment in his shop suddenly stopped working. Not powered down, not malfunctioned, simply stopped, as if the laws of physics had taken a brief holiday. The silence was absolute and deeply unsettling. Even the ambient electrical hum that served as constant background noise in the modern world had ceased. Marcus looked up from his workbench to find that his tools, computers, and diagnostic equipment had become nothing more than expensive paperweights. Then, the light began. It started as a subtle golden glow filtering through his shop windows, growing steadily brighter until the entire street outside was bathed in warm, ethereal radiance. Marcus walked to his door and peered out to see pedestrians standing frozen in mid-step, cars motionless in the middle of the street, even birds hanging motionless in the air as if time itself had been paused. The golden light coalesced into a pillar that stretched from the ground to somewhere far above the buildings. Within this pillar, shapes began to form, elegant, flowing forms that resolved into a procession of figures descending from the sky with impossible grace. At the center of the group was a woman whose presence seemed to bend reality around her. She wore robes that shifted color like aurora borealis, and her hair moved as if touched by solar winds. When her feet touched the pavement in front of Marcus's shop, the golden light faded and normal time resumed, leaving him as the only witness to what had just occurred. The woman approached his door with steps that seemed to make the very ground more solid beneath her feet. Behind her came an entourage that Marcus recognized as coalition military and diplomatic personnel, though none wore the formal uniforms he'd grown accustomed to seeing. When the woman entered his shop, Marcus felt a pressure in the air that spoke of power beyond his ability to comprehend. She was beautiful in the way that galaxies were beautiful, vast, ancient, and utterly beyond human scale. "Mr. Chun," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate in his bones. "I am Lysandra Valandra, Empress of the Andromedan Coalition. I believe you've been working with my daughter and granddaughter." Marcus's mind reeled as he tried to process this information. Granddaughter? But Zara said Admiral Valandra was her mother. The Empress smiled, an expression that somehow managed to convey both maternal warmth and the weight of ruling over hundreds of worlds. A simplification for your benefit. Zara's actual lineage is somewhat more complex than Earth family structures typically accommodate. What matters is that she is precious to me, and you have shown her kindness where she needed it most. Your Majesty? Your Highness? I don't know the proper protocol for addressing an Empress. Lysandra will suffice. I've come here not as a ruler, but as a grandmother concerned about her descendants' well-being. The Empress moved through his shop with obvious interest, examining his tools and works in progress with the attention of someone who understood technology at a fundamental level. When she reached the workstation where he'd first repaired Companion 6 months ago, she paused. "This is where it happened," she said softly. "Where a simple human repair technician accomplished something our finest engineers had deemed impossible. I still don't understand what was so special about what I did," Marcus said honestly. "I just jury-rigged some connections to get Companion working again." Lysandra turned to face him fully, and Marcus felt the full weight of her attention. "Mr. Chun, do you know why Zara was on Earth?" She said her mother was away on business, and she was staying with family friends. Another simplification, but not entirely inaccurate. Zara is here because she is dying. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. Dying? But she's just a child. She seems perfectly healthy. The Empress's expression grew pained. Zara suffers from a condition called neural cascade syndrome. It affects members of our species who possess exceptional intellectual capabilities. Her mind operates at such an advanced level that it's gradually burning out her neural pathways. Without treatment, she has perhaps 2 years of life remaining. Marcus sank into his work chair, trying to absorb this devastating information. But surely your medical technology can treat something like that. We've tried everything our civilization has to offer. The syndrome is progressive and, by all our understanding, terminal. Traditional medicine has failed, advanced neural reconstruction has failed, even quantum consciousness transfer has failed. Zara's mind is simply too complex for our current therapeutic techniques. Then, why is she here on Earth? Lysandra gestured around the shop. Because sometimes the most advanced problems require the most primitive solutions. Earth technology operates on principles that our civilization abandoned millennia ago. Your approaches to problem-solving are crude, inefficient, and completely outside our normal parameters. Marcus began to understand. You brought her here hoping that someone like me might find a solution your own doctors missed. Not just someone like you, the Empress corrected. You specifically. When Companion developed his neural cascade failure, it was essentially a simplified version of Zara's condition. Our engineers declared it irreparable using standard techniques. Yet you fixed it in a matter of hours using what you called jury-rigged connections. The full scope of what had been happening began to dawn on Marcus. The repair job wasn't really about fixing Companion. It was a test, wasn't it? To see if I could solve the same kind of problem that's killing Zara. Precisely. And you succeeded beyond our most optimistic projections. The hybrid neural pathways you created not only restored Companion's functionality, but actually enhanced it. He now operates at efficiency levels our original design never achieved. Marcus felt a mixture of pride and terror. So, you want me to try the same approach on Zara? Use primitive Earth technology to treat a condition your advanced medicine can't cure. I want you to save my granddaughter's life, Lysandra said simply. Using whatever methods you think might work, however unconventional they might seem. The weight of responsibility settled on Marcus's shoulders like a lead blanket. But I'm not a doctor. I fix machines, not people. What if I make her condition worse? What if I hurt her? The Empress stepped closer, and Marcus could see the deep worry in her ancient eyes. Mr. Chun, every traditional approach has already been exhausted. Zara's neural cascade is accelerating. Within 6 months, her mind will begin to fracture irreparably. You represent her only remaining chance. Does she know? About her condition, I mean. She's known since she was 5 years old. It's one of the reasons she values her time with Companion so highly. Artificial intelligence doesn't judge, doesn't pity, and doesn't treat her like a dying child. And it's why your friendship has become so important to her. Marcus thought about all the hours he'd spent with Zara over the past 6 months. She'd become a regular fixture in his shop, helping with coalition projects, and occasionally just talking about normal things, music, books, the challenges of understanding human social customs. He'd watched her struggle with the isolation of being the smartest person in most rooms, seen her delight when she could just be a curious kid asking questions about how things worked. What exactly would the treatment involve, he asked. Lysandra produced a device similar to the ones Marcus had become accustomed to working with, but far more sophisticated. Zara's neural pathways are failing because they're operating at frequencies our biology can't sustain long-term. The cascade effect occurs when these high-frequency thoughts create feedback loops that damage the physical neural structures. Marcus studied the readouts displayed by the device. The complexity was staggering. Neural maps that looked like three-dimensional galaxies, frequency patterns that shifted faster than he could follow, cascade predictions that showed exactly how Zara's brilliant mind was destroying itself. The theory is sound, he said after several minutes. If I could create some kind of buffer system, something that could absorb the excess neural energy and redirect it safely. Exactly what we hoped you would think, Lysandra said with obvious relief. But the buffer would need to integrate seamlessly with Zara's existing neural architecture. It can't interfere with her cognitive abilities or alter her personality. Marcus began to pace, his mind racing through possibilities. I need to create a hybrid system using Earth-based neural interface technology and coalition biointegration protocols. Something that could grow with her brain, adapt to changing neural patterns, and provide a safety valve for cognitive overflow. Can it be done? Marcus stopped pacing and looked directly at the Empress of the Andromedan Coalition. I don't know, but I have to try. Over the next several hours, Lysandra provided Marcus with detailed technical specifications for Zara's neural architecture and the progression of her condition. The scope of the challenge was overwhelming. He needed to essentially create a prosthetic consciousness, a secondary neural network that could handle the overflow from Zara's extraordinary mind without interfering with her essential self. As he worked through the theoretical framework, Marcus began to see parallels to his repair of Companion. The android's neural cascade had been caused by disconnected pathways, creating feedback loops. Zara's condition was similar, but far more complex. Her pathways were connected, but they were carrying more information than her biology could sustain. I think I have an approach, Marcus said finally. But I'm going to need help. Not just from coalition engineers, but from Zara herself. This has to be a collaborative effort. What do you need? First, I need to build a prototype using simulation technology. I won't risk experimenting on Zara directly until I'm certain the approach is sound. Second, I need access to the most advanced biointegration labs your empire has available. And third, I need Zara to understand exactly what we're attempting and give her consent to the procedure. Lysandra nodded slowly. All of this can be arranged. But there's something else you should know. If this treatment succeeds, Zara won't be entirely human anymore, at least not by your planet's standards. The neural buffer system will essentially make her a hybrid being, part biological, part technological. Marcus considered this. Will she still be herself? Her personality, her memories, her sense of who she is. According to our projections, yes. But she'll also be capable of things no pure biological being has ever achieved. Enhanced cognitive processing, direct interface with digital systems, possibly even forms of telepathic communication with other hybrid beings. And if the treatment fails? The Empress's expression grew somber. Then, we'll have lost her anyway, but perhaps bought her a few additional months of quality life. The door to Marcus's shop chimed, and he looked up to see Zura entering with companion floating beside her. The android now moved independently, using gravitational manipulation fields that Marcus had helped design, freeing Zara from having to carry him everywhere. "Grandmother," Zara said with obvious delight, running to embrace the Empress. "I didn't know you were coming to Earth. I wanted to discuss your treatment options with Mr. Chun," Lysandra replied, holding her granddaughter close. Zara looked between them with the sharp intelligence that had become her defining characteristic. "You told him about my condition." "I had to, my dear. He can't help you if he doesn't understand what's wrong." Zara turned to Marcus, her young face showing remarkable composure. "Are you afraid? About trying to fix something that all our best doctors have given up on?" Marcus knelt down to her eye level. Terrified, he said honestly, but also determined, "You helped me understand that sometimes the best solutions come from approaching problems differently than everyone else has tried." "Companion thinks you can do it," Zara said. "His neural pathways are more stable now than they ever were originally. If you can improve on coalition engineering, maybe you can improve on coalition biology too." Companion's optical sensors focused on Marcus. "Mr. Chun, I've run extensive simulations based on your theoretical framework. The probability of success is significantly higher than any previous treatment approach. But, more importantly, young Mistress Zara trusts you completely." Marcus looked at this remarkable child, brilliant beyond her years, facing death with courage that shamed most adults, still holding on a hope that someone could find an answer where others had failed. The weight of responsibility was crushing, but the trust in her eyes was even stronger. "All right," he said, standing up and moving toward his workbench. "Let's build something impossible." Over the following weeks, Marcus threw himself into the project with an intensity that surprised even him. Working with coalition bioengineers and neural specialists, he began constructing a hybrid buffer system that could integrate with human neural architecture while maintaining the adaptability of artificial intelligence. The device that emerged from their collaboration looked like a marriage between Earth electronics and alien biotechnology. Crystalline matrices similar to Companion's neural cores were connected to biocompatible mesh networks that could grow along with Zara's developing brain. Quantum processing nodes handled the complex calculations needed to predict and redirect neural cascade patterns. But the most crucial component was something purely human: adaptive algorithms based on Marcus's intuitive approach to problem solving. The system could learn, improvise, and find solutions that pure logic might miss. Zara participated in every stage of the development process, offering insights into her own neural patterns and suggesting modifications based on her unique perspective as both patient and genius-level intellect. Her calm acceptance of the risks involved helped keep the entire team focused on the technical challenges rather than the emotional weight of what they were attempting. The day of the procedure arrived with none of the fanfare Marcus had expected. In a coalition medical facility hidden beneath the streets of downtown Chicago, a small team of the Empire's finest surgeons prepared to attempt something that had never been tried before. Zara lay on the surgical platform, looking impossibly small, surrounded by advanced medical technology. Companion floated nearby, monitoring her vital signs and providing constant reassurance. The Empress stood at the observation window, her usual composure cracked by obvious maternal concern. "Are you ready, Princess?" Marcus asked, using the title sheet originally hidden from him, but that now felt entirely natural. "Ready," Zara replied with a smile that was both brave and slightly scared. "Thank you, Marcus, for believing that impossible problems are just puzzles waiting for the right solution." The procedure itself was unlike anything in medical textbooks. As coalition surgeons carefully implanted the biocompatible mesh networks into Zara's brain tissue, Marcus monitored the integration between her natural neural patterns and the artificial buffer system. The crystalline matrices activated gradually, their quantum processors coming online one by one as they established connections with Zara's existing neural architecture. For several terrifying minutes, her brain activity showed dangerous fluctuations as the two systems learned to work together. Then, suddenly, everything stabilized. The neural cascade patterns that had been slowly killing her smoothed into sustainable rhythms. The artificial buffer system began absorbing excess cognitive energy and redirecting it into enhanced processing capabilities rather than destructive feedback loops. "How do you feel?" Marcus asked when Zara's eyes opened several hours later. She was quiet for a long moment, as if listening to something only she could hear. When she finally spoke, her voice carried new harmonics that hadn't been there before. "Different," she said softly, "but still me. It's like, imagine you've been living in a house where all the lights were too bright and hurt your eyes, and suddenly someone installed perfect dimmer switches. Everything is clearer now, but also more comfortable." Companion sensors performed detailed scans of her neural activity. "Young mistress, your cognitive efficiency has improved by 340%, while neural stress has decreased to normal baseline levels. The integration appears to be completely successful." The Empress rushed to her granddaughter's side, tears of relief streaming down her face. "My dear child, how do you really feel?" Zara smiled, and Marcus could see that her essential self remained unchanged despite the technological enhancement. "I feel like I might actually live long enough to see you teach me how to rule an empire properly, grandmother." 6 months later, Marcus stood in his shop on Maple Street, watching Zara work on a quantum communications array that would have challenged expert engineers. The neural buffer system had not only saved her life, but had given her capabilities that exceeded even the most optimistic projections. She could interface directly with digital systems, process information at superhuman speeds, and maintain perfect recall of everything she experienced. But more importantly, she was still the brilliant, lonely child who had first walked into a shop carrying a broken android and asking for help. "Marcus," she said without looking up from her work, "Grandmother wants to know if you'd be interested in establishing a permanent coalition research facility here on Earth. Officially this time, with full diplomatic recognition." Marcus looked around at his modest repair shop, which had somehow become the center of interstellar technological collaboration. What would that mean exactly? It means Earth gets to join the galactic community as an equal partner instead of a protected developing world. It means human ingenuity becomes part of the toolkit we use to solve problems across hundreds of civilizations. And it means, she added with a grin, that you get to keep fixing impossible things for the rest of your very long life. Companion floated over to join the conversation. "The life extension treatments alone would give you several centuries to perfect your techniques, Mr. Chun. Though I suspect you'll still consider yourself a simple repair technician who just happens to work on galactic-scale projects." Marcus picked up his tools and looked out at Maple Street, where ordinary people went about their ordinary lives, unaware that the future of human civilization was being shaped in a cluttered electronics repair shop. "Well," he said with a smile, "I did put a sign on my door that says we fix what others give up on. I suppose I should live up to that promise." Zara laughed, a sound full of joy and infinite possibility. "In that case, Marcus, I have some really interesting problems for you to solve." As the afternoon sun streamed through the windows of his impossible little shop, Marcus Chun, repair technician, galactic technical consultant, and the man who had saved a princess by refusing to accept that some things couldn't be fixed, picked up his tools and got back to work on the next impossible problem. After all, that's what he did best.